Hello everyone and welcome to Canadian Lynx as a spirit guide. Canadian Lynx is a subset of the cat species lynx, as in bobcat. So if there isn't already, there will also be a spirit guide video about bobcat up here soon. And if you watch both, you'll notice that the wisdom is very similar in some ways and very different in others. So if the bobcat one isn't up there yet and you really need bobcat wisdom, this one will help you out. It'll at least give you a head start. So, Canadian Lynx is a spirit guide. First and foremost, Canadian Lynx has excellent vision and excellent hearing. And anytime you have a spirit guide show up that has heightened perceptiveness in these areas, what you're looking at is an increase in psychic messages in that way, auditory and visual fashion. Or basically, it just means that when the universe tries to get your attention right now, if you're seeing links everywhere, the messages it's using are probably going to come in more of a visual format or an auditory format. So you'll suddenly notice billboards or cloud formations or pictures or things like that. Or you'll hear songs that will be meaningful, or you'll hear voices. You're not crazy. You may actually hear the voices of your guides, or you'll have that sensation that somebody you know is calling your name. These are the ways the universe will be more likely to be trying to get in touch with you at this time. So if something you see or hear is very striking for you, you'll want to keep it in mind because it's probably a message. Lynx is very solitary. For the most part, it lives and hunts alone. It really doesn't like other people much. So you might notice right now that you're feeling a little grouchy in the company of other people, a little impatient, really want to get on your own someplace before you crawl out of your skin and scream. If Lynx is showing up for you, then one of its messages is that alone time would be good for you right now. For whatever reason, you need to get away from other people and get some time to yourself, probably to clear out some other people's energy or do some good thinking that'll bring you to new conclusions. But there's no shame in locking yourself in your room and crawling out of the bed for a little while. This is important. Lynx is often usually a single mommy in the wild. So there's a couple of things here. First and foremost, if you are a single mother at this time and Canadian Lynx is showing up, this is a really good thing. Lynx is telling you that you have the necessary self-sufficiency, you have the necessary know-how, you have the necessary strength to pull off single motherhood beautifully. Lynx does it all the time. However, the caution here is that if you are in a romantic relationship with somebody and you're not wanting to have children with them, you're going to want to take some contraceptive precautions because the energy is right for single parenthood. So if you're not careful, you might pay for it later. Additionally, Canadian Lynx has a really interesting mating call. Most cats sound like they're being murdered when they're trying to attract a mate, but Canadian Lynx has this almost human call of just abject despair and despondency. And what this means for somebody who's encountering Lynx is that you may at this time be feeling just achingly lonely for companionship. And Lynx would be saying, okay, pay attention to that, go ahead and indulge that need. But again, do so in a way that is, well, as cautious as possible considering the circumstances. So make sure that in all ways that you're able, that you arrange things so that there really isn't a chance that you'll be paying for this later. Lynx also, like bobcat, has a bobbed tail. It's one of the markers of the species. And in most cats and other animals, the bobbed tail, or the tail, has to do with balance. It helps the animal stay balanced when it's jumping and doing all those other lovely acrobatics. So the bobbed tail, the shortened tail, often indicates for people to whom Lynx is showing up that they're out of balance in some way in their lives. They are working too hard in their careers and not putting enough time into themselves. They aren't getting enough exercise, spending too much time resting, or vice versa. They're getting too much exercise and not resting. Maybe their diet is off. But if Lynx is showing up, one of the first things you can really look at is, where are you out of balance? This is particularly true if you're not feeling grounded. If you feel kind of off in la-la land, not able to focus, not really feeling here. The bobbed tail often has to do with not feeling grounded. And so, if that's what's happening for you, there are a lot of things you can do to reground yourself. You can eat healthy foods, for one thing. You can get outside, put your feet in the grass, do something creative, something that will really connect you back to earth. This comes up a lot, especially as we get into the holidays and we have all these people coming in and out of our houses and the energy gets a little scattered. So do what you can to reconnect yourself with your space if Lynx is indicating ungroundedness for you. Lynx has Canadian lynx has a dependent relationship on its food source, its primary food source, the snowshoe hare. The reason this relationship is dependent is when the hare population fluctuates, so does the lynx population. And so for people to whom lynx is appearing, another thing that you can look at is where in your life are you putting too much focus? Is there a particular person around whom you're basing all of your decisions and you can't do anything without consulting them or thinking about how it'll affect them? Is there a particular habit you've developed or routine you have that you are so tied into this thing that it is preventing you from growing or changing in an important way? So when Lynx shows up, it may be saying, look, it's time to be a little flexible because something to which you are holding because you think you're dependent upon it is actually holding you back. Canadian lynx is unique among cats in that not only does it like to swim, but it also is able to navigate snow. It has these enormous snowshoe paws that let it just kind of float over the snow. Now, in metaphysical terms, water, snow in this case, and the water in which the lynx likes to swim, has to do with both our emotions and our access to our creative forces. So lynx has the capacity for extremes. It's able to swim, really get into its emotions, into its creativity, and yet it's able to float on top of the snow, which is essentially numbness. It's able to not feel anything, to be creatively dead. So what may happen to you if lynx is showing up is that you're going from extremes where one day you feel everything and the next day you feel nothing at all. Or one day you are on fire creatively and the next day your muse has left the building. So what you're going to want to do here is first off, do some of those grounding exercises. Really see if you can seek some balance. That's where your energy needs to be, not in worrying. Just try to get balanced again. And when the creative vibes are there, use them. When you're not, go do something else. Don't worry about it. They'll come back. When you're feeling super duper crazy emotional, be in those emotions. Experience them, allow them to pass through you, but don't let them prompt you to make any crazy decisions. It is never a wise idea to make a decision with emotion as an impetus if it's extreme happiness or extreme sadness, because we sometimes do things foolish there. We get carried away. You want to use your emotions as guideposts to help you understand how you really feel about something and what's really good for you. But again, you don't want to make a huge decision when you're possessed by them. And Lynx would remind you about that. Wait until you're back in balance. Don't make decisions when you're numb. Don't make your decisions when you're really emotional. Just wait till you come back to center, because you will. Now, Lynx is very interesting in the way that it stalks and hunts. They will sit motionless forever, waiting for their prey. They will watch and watch and watch and watch, and they'll observe and observe and observe and observe. And yet when it comes to actually capturing it, they give up if they don't get it fairly quickly. For a lynx, they take like 5 big bounds, and if they can't get it within that amount of time, they're done. So for you, if Lynx is showing up for you, then you're going to want to look at where you may be putting a whole lot more energy into preparing for something than you are into the eventual outcome. So I like to use weddings as an example here. Maybe you're planning this big, gorgeous, beautiful wedding, and yet you're letting your actual relationship with the person to whom you will be pledging your life fall by the wayside. Maybe the actual result, being married, is less important than the event. Or maybe you've been planning and planning and planning and planning and planning for something, and yet you really don't care about the outcome. Or maybe you finally started actually working on this thing you've been planning, and yet you're finding it's just not anywhere near as exciting as you thought it would be. This happens with college a lot of times. We study something in college, then we go to do our career and we realize this isn't even something that we want. So what Lynx is asking you to do is look at maybe how you have changed your perception a little bit. Is this outcome still something you really, really want, or are you just wasting time? Are you not really serious about it, or are you just fantasizing about it with no actual intention of doing it? My darlings, that is the bulk of the information on Canadian Lynx, but again, keep an eye out for Bobcat as a spirit guide if it's not up here already, because there is going to be additional information that may be helpful to you. If you have any more questions about what it means to have Canadian Lynx as a spirit guide, or if you're just curious about spirit guides or totems or whatever in general, please feel free to get in touch with me. You can find me at my website, which is www.ravenlightholistichealing.com. I maintain a blog at that site also. You can message me via YouTube, or you can also connect with me on Facebook at Ravenlight Holistic Healing. All of you have a wonderful day. Cheers, my darlings.